In our previous episode, Molkel the Friendly Grelb was played by Richard Nixon, who turned into a werewolf and said, "I'm not a crook." But he was. Yeah. So, 7 days later, I finish this. Now, we'll just show the penny again. And then, same on here. And then we pull back. And this is 7 days work with them. And this. And some music. Now this is all about a book that I'm creating, but actually I'm thinking of doing a special thing on, let's say, just how to be cool. Because the stuff that's around now isn't cool, but the stuff that I'm listening to is. So there's Judas Priest, and there are more portraits to come, which includes this. So from 70s, 80s metal, we're going to Woodstock. And this is it's a reissue, but it's a 3 vinyl album of the Woodstock concert. I've got quite a few Woodstock recordings, full ones. I love this era. I wasn't around on this era, but the moment you go into 67, that counterculture and the protest songs I absolutely adore. And well, to be honest, I will listen to your modern music when I get tired of this. And that's not happening. So who am I drawing next for this big book that I'm working on, that I'm going to need 27 portraits at least to do. It's going to take a year to do. Just for this one project. So who am I doing? Well, who am I drawing? Well, do you know this group? This is Leslie West. And if you've ever heard Mountain, chances are you've heard Mississippi Queen and nothing else. You've not heard anything of the group if you've just played Mississippi Queen. I bought an album for this, a box set, and I'm going through it slowly. And I say slowly because you're looking at least 25 minutes guitar solos in some albums. I've just gone through a half-hour guitar solo for one song. They riff, and they are one of the best rock bands that you will ever hear. They influenced pretty much everything metal. Ozzy was definitely influenced by Leslie West, and he became friends with him. Black Sabbath had definitely got Mountain in it, and when you hear their songs, you can definitely pick up on Leslie West's music. If you want an intro into the band, you just move this around. This is your best starting and finishing box set. Now, I'm certainly not being paid by the company who did this. I've just bought this album for about £38. It's on CD, but, well, there's 7 albums here. So you get a booklet, and then you get the first album, and that is the Woodstock concert, the full Woodstock concert. And then you get Climbing, which started with Mississippi Queen, and then Took It Sleigh Ride, and Flowers of Evil, which there is one track on there, Dream Sequence Medley, and it sort of ends with, well, it goes up to Mississippi Queen. That is one side of the album, and it's the first side is studio, the second side is concert, and it's sort of like a religious experience when you hear it. You can't believe how powerful this is. He was 26 when this was released. This one I've just played. There's another song on there that it's over half an hour, and they're just riffing. And then I haven't played Avalanche yet, but I'm expecting more of the same. It's good rock and roll, heavy played, and seriously, if you're into any kind of music, you need this album. It is stunning. But here's the thing, as I said, I don't listen to modern music at all. The recent releases that I've bought are, guess who? Ram Jam, Canned Heat, Buffalo Springfield, Traffic, and John Mayall. And there's a couple of albums over there with the Zombies, you know, Time of the Season. I just don't do modern music. What happened was we cut to about the 90s. Well, it was the 90s. It was about 1992, 93. And I've said this in previous videos, but it warrants repeating. So I used to watch Top of the Pops. There was a period that I didn't, because someone in the family was obsessed with soaps and Crossroads. But I used to enjoy Top of the Pops, as every kid did in England. When you look back on it, there was a lot of playing to backing tracks and miming. So when they show Top of the Pops, you get a lot of, well, they're not playing live. And it's a shame, because there's some brilliant musicians out there, and they were forced to play to backing tracks. But with Top of the Pops, you didn't get the whole, you didn't get all of the music that you would have got in that period. Mountain would have been played on the Old Grey Whistle Test, but doubt they would have been played on Top of the Pops. That was more, in the 70s, that was more mainstream. Mountain were more rock based, so they would have been in Old Grey Whistle Test. But what happened with Top of the Pops was, I remember rejoining it in about 1986, at the height of the resurgence of rock and metal, things like Motley Crue and Bon Jovi. And then they changed it. They went to, it was about 92, and Status Quo were told that they weren't allowed to play, they weren't going to play any Status Quo songs on Radio 1. And it extended to the TV as well. And while Quo did have a big tenure in on Top of the Pops, what we were getting at the time in this country wasn't just the classic rock and metal and the pop stuff, and we were getting a lot of PWL, Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan and that kind of thing, but there was also a lot of the club music, the Euro club music from things like Black Box and those kind of things, and I really, really didn't like it. And very often I used to watch Top of the Pops up here in this room on a very old TV that I was using for gaming, and there's an aerial in the loft. It's one of those little aerials with a cable plugged through and into this room. And I kept muting through the songs. And you'd have, coming up next is Wakefield Saturday Night. No. Coming up next is, no, I'm not interested, I don't want to know it. So I walked away from chart music, thinking that it was going to change back to the way it was. And the way that I liked the music, and it never changed. And then it went into Britpop and Spice Girls, and I just, I don't like this. I want to go back. And that's what I did. There was one point where I was possibly playing some of my mum's albums, and I've got a wider taste in that kind of music as than my mum, but I was playing those kind of albums. And there was another album here, let me just get it. Here we are. There was this album that my mum bought, and the chart show was on ITV, and it was a bit like MTV. And I'll just show you the songs. They're all standards. And my mum bought this in a sale. We were in, they used to have records in C&A. I think it was C&A. And it was just on a rack. And I picked it up and I'd like this album. I'll buy it for you. You sure? Yeah, I'll get it for you. And it was only about £6. It was on sale. And it's got Free, All Right Now, and Waterboy's Whole of the Moon, and Ugly Kid Joe, and Glenn Frey, Boston, Texas, Golden Earring, Gun, Blue Oyster Cult, although it's the cut down version of Don't Fear the Reaper. And it's got those songs on it. It was just a basic compilation, and I kept playing it, and it unlocked something that I was enjoying as a child, but for one reason or another was pushed away from, and then I came back to it in a big way. And I just thought, you're an idiot. Why are you not buying this kind of music? You're obviously enjoying it. So I started buying back catalogue, and there was a few people who I knew who started laughing at me because I was buying music from the 60s. They are now ex-friends. And I was buying just albums that I hadn't even heard. There was a few that that were a crossover, and they were, released during that time, but no modern music. If Aerosmith were releasing an album in the 90s, then I'd buy it because I like Aerosmith. But if a new band came in, I'm not really interested. And then I sort of drifted away, and now you're looking at things like, well, let's say that Demon Hunters thing that's on. It's an animated film with songs. Well, I grew up with an animated TV series with songs called Josie and the Pussycats. And I still want an album from them. And I also grew up with seeing Gem and the Holograms. And I want an album with that music. That's the thing. I like that kind of music. I don't think I'd play Gem and the Holograms above Mountain, but I wouldn't mind the music because it was just really good. But I would like Josie and the Pussycats. I would like a Josie and the Pussycats album. It is available, but it's really expensive. But now we get to this, and with Woodstock, it was an anniversary of Woodstock. There was one time it was an anniversary, and it was being shown on BBC Two on a Saturday. And my mum said, "You are stopping up to see this." It's the first time that she'd ever done it. And it was on late. I mean, it's a 3-hour plus film. And it was on late, and she said, "You're stopping up and you're going to watch this." Again, that unlocked something. And now I just don't do modern music at all. So if anybody asks me to draw anyone modern, no. No, I won't. I like this kind of music. I'm staying with this. And also, it's sort of like an act of rebellion, because you've got these people saying that you need to listen to this kind of music, and you've got to listen to this, and this is popular, you've got to listen to these bands and this group, and there's nothing that you should do. If somebody tells you, well, pretty much orders you to listen to something or experience something, walk the other way, even though I'm telling you to buy this album. But this album will do you good. It's created by hand. There's one, as I said, there's one on Flowers of Evil. There's one song on Flowers of Evil. Leslie West was 26 when he recorded that. Think about this, proper guitar solos, and he was 26. And you can hear also that Jimi Hendrix would have heard this. And he starts riffing in that way. If you look at the 60s music, it moved so quickly. You got, let's say, 62, 63, and the Beatles are singing Love Me Do. And they are using music very similar to, well, it's been influenced by Little Richard and Chuck Berry. Now cut to 1967 and the Summer of Love. Completely different music. Love Me Do seems out of place, even if you listen to the Yardbirds. The early Yardbirds music, that with Eric Clapton in it, and when Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and yeah, the later songs sound completely different to the early stuff. And it was an experimental thing where, yeah, they partaked in various substances, various assorted substances, and they say there was something in the water. It was possibly LSD. There was quite a lot of LSD in that, but you listen to some of these bands and they were playing quite possibly jacked up on this stuff. And they still sound better than the music that's out now. They were off the face on drugs, a lot of them were. And they were playing off their face on drugs. Not that I'm saying you should try the chemicals that they were on. You shouldn't. But there was something magical about that time that we haven't got now. Because what we've got now is corporate. And the reason that we're not moving on anything like this is the companies don't want change. They want to sell the same product packaged differently. Now, when you are selling the same product packaged differently, I guarantee that somebody will go, I've had enough of this because I've already seen it. Cue the remakes. Do you want to see RoboCop the original, or do you want to see RoboCop the remake? You obviously want to see the original. There are a few exceptions. The Fly remake is a stunning film, as is The Thing, as is Cape Fear. But it's few and far between. And we haven't got a lot of truly original ideas. We certainly haven't got the glut of ideas that they had in the 60s, because they had the freedom to do it. The record executives didn't have a clue what these people were doing. They just wanted the music so they could make money from it. And a lot of the musicians were screwed over royally. Black Sabbath didn't make much at all. They didn't make a penny with their entire output. A lot of other bands, they were on rotten contracts. And a lot of the black artists were on even worse contracts than the other artists. Than just the mainstream ones. But their rule with this, the way how these musicians played, was we're just going to do it. We like the music. We're playing the music. You look at the Doors. Play the Doors. Play the Doors album. Here, let me show you the box. Here. A bit dusty. There's all the Doors albums. You can go out right now and buy this. So you've got every Doors album on here on CD. No bonuses. Just the Doors albums. And you might not have the die cut for LA Woman, but you've got LA Woman. And then that's the booklet. I've got all the Doors albums. And I play them loud. But you look at Jim Morrison. Now look at... Where's your modern day equivalent of Jim Morrison? Where is he? Because we had a modern day of Jim Morrison. Michael Hutchence from In Excess. And you could tell that he was influenced by Jim Morrison's work. I will be drawing Jim Morrison for this book. I may be drawing the whole of the Doors. But you end up with, what, 1, 2, 3... there's 6 albums in this box set. It's going to take more than 6 albums to draw this kind of thing. Oh, excuse me, I've got a phone call. Bye.